As I poured hot espresso into the stainless steel pitcher, I stole a glance at the twins. They had chosen a corner table near the large window, chatting softly while regarding the cafe's decor with the keen interest of archaeologists studying an unearthed mosaic. My mind began to wander, imagining them leafing through an old map, discussing the possible location of a fabled golden statue. Yes, that would have been thrilling, but as I'd soon find out, reality was far more remarkable. I frothed the milk, layered the foam, and drizzled caramel with practiced skill, then carried the 2 cups and the little bag of cookies to their table. "Enjoy," I said, placing the drinks before them. Celeste's eyes lit up. "Thank you," she answered, giving me a polite nod, then inhaled the scent of the steaming latte with something akin to wonder. Nova took a small sip, swirling the foam in her mouth, and her eyes widened. "This," she exclaimed, "is quite different. Delightful, even." I had to grin. "Glad you like it," I said, trying not to betray how intrigued I was by their every word. "If you need anything else, let me know. My name's Ethan." Celeste observed the latte art, a leaf pattern that had turned out particularly well, then looked up at me. "It's lovely, Ethan," she said. "I may ask for your expertise later if, indeed, we need help navigating this town, or, as you call it, the Orchard Festival. Actually, I have a few questions if you don't mind." Her inquiry caught me slightly off guard. "Sure," I replied. "Fire away." She shot a side glance at Nova, who nodded as if granting permission. Then Celeste cleared her throat. "Has anyone in town spoken of strange sightings? Lights in the sky? Or an unusual event many years ago? Perhaps a meteor?" A vague recollection stirred in my memory. "Well, there is a legend around here about a meteor that might have crashed somewhere in the orchard groves decades ago," I said, "but it's local folklore mostly. People say there's an area called the Moonlit Field where weird things can happen at night. Personally, I haven't seen anything too unusual aside from a few glowing mushrooms after a storm." "Why do you ask?" "Just curious," Celeste said, though the intensity in her gaze suggested otherwise. She was measuring my words, as if the mention of the orchard or the meteor was vital. "We might visit that orchard, just to see the place for ourselves. I can point it out on a map," I offered. "Like I said, there's not much excitement here. But you never know. Some folks claim the orchard is haunted, or that the meteor was part of a spaceship." I laughed, though my heart gave a sudden, mysterious jump. "But that's just rumor." Nova and Celeste swapped a meaningful look, their eyes glimmering with an excitement they were trying to keep contained. "That would be kind of you," Nova said, turning toward me. "We appreciate any guidance we can get." Throughout that day, the twins lingered at the Moonlight Café, occasionally stepping out to the small courtyard out back, sometimes whispering to each other in hushed voices. A few times I noticed them poking around corners, peering at walls, almost as though they were scanning the place for hidden compartments. I found it peculiar, yet I reasoned that perhaps they were indeed archaeologists or treasure hunters with a flair for dramatics. Late in the afternoon, as the sun began sliding down toward the horizon, they returned to the counter. Celeste tucked a stray strand of hair behind her ear, her silver eyes flicking over me thoughtfully. "Ethan," she said quietly, "would you happen to know if there is a basement here or any sort of old foundation?" Her query made me laugh. "This building's ancient, so yeah, there's a basement. But it's mostly used for storage, bags of coffee beans, old chairs, some holiday decorations from last year." "Why do you ask?" She averted her gaze for a moment, then shrugged. "Oh, no particular reason. We're curious about architecture, old buildings, you see. It's not exactly a secret lair," I teased, "though it can be a bit spooky if you go down there alone." I winked, and they both nodded, apparently taking note of this information quite seriously. As evening rolled in, the cafe approached closing time. I busied myself wiping tables, restocking supplies, and tidying up. Our small staff was reduced to just me and Gloria, the kindly older woman who owned the cafe. She was in the back, rummaging for a missing set of keys, leaving me to lock up. Nova and Celeste sat near the window, lingering over cups of tea they'd ordered in place of coffee. The last few customers had gone, the doors were locked, and I realized the twins were waiting for something. That's when fate took a comedic turn that I could never have anticipated. I had stepped away to the small back hallway, where a single restroom was located, to wash my hands and splash some water on my face. The day had been unusually intense, though I couldn't quite say why, and I needed a moment to collect myself. As I was drying my hands, I noticed a spot on my apron, a bit of leftover foam that had splashed me earlier, so I decided to quickly swap out the apron for a fresh one stored in the supply closet. One thing led to another, and, well, out of sheer habit, I ended up removing not just my apron, but my shirt too, noticing coffee stains on the collar. The door was closed, or so I thought, and I rummaged for a fresh shirt we sometimes kept in the closet for emergencies. Having found one, I slipped out of my jeans to shake out some leftover coffee grounds that had somehow ended up in a pocket. It was a ridiculous scenario, I know, but we baristas often get coffee dust in the strangest places. While in this state, my clothes draped awkwardly over a nearby stool. I turned to see the door to the hallway bathroom creak open. Perhaps I hadn't locked it properly, or perhaps Nova and Celeste, brimming with curiosity, found a way to unlock it. Regardless, there they stood, the tall, raven-haired twins, wide-eyed with shock. Time seemed to slow. I yelped in sheer embarrassment, fumbling to cover myself with the nearest scrap of cloth, a small cafe towel that was hardly sufficient. My face flushed, my heart pounded, and I'm quite sure I resembled a startled cat about to leap off a ledge. Nova let out a tiny gasp, and Celeste seemed momentarily frozen. Then, almost as quickly as they appeared, they darted backward, shutting the door with a swiftness that suggested reflexes beyond normal human capacity. My mind spun with the humiliating knowledge that they had seen more of me than I ever intended to show two near strangers. In the aftermath of that mortifying moment, I hastily dressed myself, all the while muttering curses at my own carelessness. I half expected the twins to flee in giggles or abject horror, never to return. Yet, when I emerged from the hallway, buttoning my shirt, there they were, sitting at a table, hands folded in a precise, almost formal manner, waiting with uncanny poise. They looked up at me with expressions that were neither mocking nor pitying, but rather apologetic. "We're so sorry," Nova murmured, her voice hushed. "We didn't mean to intrude." I managed a strained laugh. "Yeah, well, it's partially my fault for not locking the door properly. Let's just, forget that happened, shall we?" My cheeks still burned, but their genuine concern helped soothe the shame a bit. Celeste nodded quickly. "It will remain our secret," she said, her eyes flicking between me and Nova. A faint blush tinged her cheeks as well, which surprised me, for I hadn't expected such a human reaction from these two mysterious women. Before the awkwardness could suffocate the room entirely, Nova cleared her throat. "We were actually looking for you," she said softly. We need to talk, Ethan. There's something important we must share, if you're willing to listen." Her tone had changed. Gone was the airy politeness, replaced by a quiet urgency. Part of me wanted nothing more than to escape to my cozy apartment. But the bigger part, the part that yearned for the extraordinary, found itself tethered by intrigue. "Sure," I said hesitantly. "I'm listening." "We're not quite what you think we are," Celeste began, casting a quick glance at her twin. "We come from a place much farther than another state or another country. We've traveled across vast distances, using technology you don't have on Earth." Nova raised a hand, stopping her sister from saying too much too soon. "What Celeste means is, we are not from this planet. We appear human, yes, but that is only because it makes our travels easier. Our true forms are somewhat different, though not so different that we cannot pass as humans with minimal effort. We've been searching for something, an artifact that belonged to our ancestors, which, according to our records, is buried beneath this very building, or somewhere close by." Silence draped the cafe. My ears rang, and I found myself wondering if I had somehow knocked my head in the bathroom, causing me to hallucinate. "You're aliens," I repeated, my voice trembling on the word. "From another world." "You're serious?" They nodded in unison. Nova, her silver eyes flickering with sincerity, said, "Yes. We are not here to cause harm, nor to enslave your species, or any such dreadful scenario you humans often imagine. We simply seek what was left here long ago, an ancient energy source that could help our home world. Its location is precisely here in Trenton Falls, or more specifically, beneath Moonlight Café." A fleeting laugh escaped my lips. It was a laugh of astonishment and confusion, not of amusement. "An ancient energy source under this cafe? That's impossible. The basement is just dusty storerooms and rickety shelves. That is precisely why it's such a perfect hiding place, Celeste said, tilting her head. No one would suspect. Our records indicate a small outpost was hidden in this region. The meteor you mentioned? That was no meteor, but a fragment of the vessel carrying the artifact. It's taken us considerable effort to trace the energy signature. I tried to steady my whirling thoughts. But how can you be sure? Why do you need me? I'm no archaeologist, and I certainly don't know about alien technology. Celeste cast a quick look at Nova. Because you hold a key of sorts, Ethan. We detected an unusual resonance when we first stepped into the cafe. We believe you were, at some point, exposed to the energy from this artifact. That's why you can help us locate it. We're not sure how, but you are connected. My mouth felt dry. Exposed? My entire life I've lived here in Trenton Falls, true enough, but I don't recall anything that could have linked me to an alien artifact. Could it have been that rumored meteor crash decades ago? Possibly, Nova replied. It may be that the artifact's energy field seeped through the land. Maybe it attuned itself to you in some way when you were very young. She paused, considering her next words carefully. We understand this is a lot to process. However, we also sense that you are not opposed to the idea of something greater. I swallowed hard. I don't know. I mean, obviously I believe that in the entire cosmos we can't be alone. But this is so unexpected. The twins watched me, letting me sift through the staggering truth. Finally, Celeste spoke softly. We didn't mean to embarrass you earlier or to invade your privacy. We were exploring, seeing if we could detect any energy fields near that part of the building, but your presence startled us. Please forgive our clumsiness. I forced a wry smile. It's all right. Let's just say it was an unusual way to meet. And now you're telling me I might be some sort of living compass to find an alien relic? Their expressions turned hopeful. Precisely, Nova said, a note of relief creeping into her tone. We'll explain more in time. But for now, can you keep this a secret? We don't want panic or government intervention. We must remain discreet if we are to succeed. I inhaled slowly, exhaled in a shuddering breath. My life had been dull and predictable, but in the space of a few minutes, it had tilted wildly off its axis. Yet a spark within me was undeniably alight, the promise of adventure beckoning with a shining edge. All right, I said, my voice steady with a resolve I hardly recognized. I'll help. Night fell quietly over Trenton Falls. The street lamps flickered on, casting pale pools of light across the empty sidewalks. Having locked up the cafe, I escorted Nova and Celeste outside. They lingered on the threshold, gazing with curiosity at the star-studded sky. Your planet's night sky is breathtaking, Celeste mused, a soft sigh escaping her lips. We have missed seeing these constellations with our own eyes. Our home has many wonders, but Earth's atmosphere, despite its imperfections, is truly lovely. Nova looked at me. We should meet again soon, perhaps tomorrow, if you are willing to show us more of this place. We're eager to examine the basement. Yeah, sure, I replied, still feeling a bit lightheaded. We'll figure something out. After all, I have a spare key, and if I can make up some excuse to go down there after closing, we might explore without raising suspicion. Celeste bowed her head graciously, an old-fashioned gesture that surprised me. Thank you, Ethan. We'll be careful. Then she hesitated, as though she wanted to say more, but chose not to. Instead, she added, we're staying at the motel on the outskirts of town, if you need to reach us. I nodded, parted ways with them, and began the short walk back to my apartment. The once humble streets now seemed charged with possibility. My mind was a supernova of questions. Where exactly were Nova and Celeste from? What did their technology look like? How had I become entangled in this cosmic tapestry? By the time I reached home, a modest second-floor unit in an aging building, I was trembling with anticipation and uncertainty. I warmed up some leftovers in the microwave, barely tasting them as I forced myself to eat. Sleep seemed a distant luxury, my thoughts looping endlessly around the day's revelations. Eventually, I managed to drift off into a dreamscape of swirling lights, swirling twin silhouettes, and the gentle hum of something ancient calling my name. At dawn, I awoke from restless dreams, feeling both drained and oddly exhilarated. The sun's first rays painted the sky in soft peaches and pinks. After a quick shower, I made my way back to the cafe. The morning shift was quiet, and Gloria was already there, bustling about with her usual vigor. I brewed a fresh pot of coffee and tried to act normal. But normal was a concept that now eluded me. My attention would drift to the corners of the cafe, imagining alien artifacts hidden below my feet, humming with cosmic power. I caught myself half smiling, half frowning, unable to decide whether to feel frightened or thrilled. Around mid-morning, Nova and Celeste arrived. This time, they carried a small backpack between them. Their clothes were the same style as the day before, unobtrusive sweaters and jeans, but their eyes were full of purpose. We exchanged pleasantries. They ordered a couple of pastries, croissants, they called them, with that air of newness, as though everything on earth was an experiment, and found a table near the back. I continued serving customers, heart pounding with anticipation, until the lull between breakfast and lunch arrived. At that point, I slipped over to their table. Celeste patted the seat next to her, inviting me to join them. With a quick glance around to ensure no one was paying attention, I sank into the chair. Nova leaned forward. "We think we've found a way to trace the artifact," she whispered. She patted the backpack. "We have a small device that can detect its unique energy signature. We'll need to bring you with us to the basement, Ethan, because your presence might amplify the signal." I nodded, feeling a slight tremor of excitement. "I can take my break in about 15 minutes, I said. "That's when the fewest customers come in, so it should be easy enough for me to slip away. We'll have to be quick, though, in case Gloria or a customer wonders where I went." Celeste brushed a strand of hair from her face, then gave me a determined smile. "Understood. Let's do our best not to arouse suspicion." 15 minutes later, I made an excuse about checking inventory downstairs. The twins followed me to the staff-only door near the rear of the cafe. Descending the narrow flight of stairs, I felt the temperature drop slightly, the walls turning to rough concrete. My breath echoed in the dim space. The overhead light flickered ominously, revealing shelves laden with coffee bean sacks and dusty paraphernalia. Nova and Celeste exchanged a nod. Then Nova slipped the device from the backpack. It was about the size of a small tablet, but it looked more organic than mechanical, composed of an iridescent material that glowed faintly in swirling patterns. It hummed gently, reminiscent of a cat's purr. Celeste flipped a small switch, and a soft light emanated from the device, bathing the basement in an otherworldly glow. "Stand here," she whispered, guiding me to the center of the open space, where a few old tables were stacked against the wall. "Just relax." I did as instructed, though my heart thundered in my chest. Nova slowly moved the device in a circle around me. Immediately, the patterns on its surface shimmered brighter. I heard a faint ringing in my ears, and an electric tingle skittered over my skin. "Look at that," Celeste breathed. "He's definitely resonating with it." Nova's voice trembled with excitement. "Yes, the energy signature is matching. I can't believe it's so strong." I felt a strange heaviness in my limbs, as though gravity had doubled, but at the same time, there was a warmth pulsing in my chest. My thoughts raced, my senses sharpened. The distant hum of the cafe above me seemed magnified. I could pick out the mechanical whir of the espresso machines, the faint chatter of customers. Then, just as I thought I might lose myself in this sudden intensity, the device beeped once, a clear note that echoed off the basement walls. A single beam of light projected from the device, striking the far wall. There, a vague pattern of swirling lines appeared, as though etched in invisible ink. Celeste gasped, stepping closer to examine the pattern. "There's something behind the wall," she whispered, pressing her hand against the concrete. "I can sense it. The device says it's only a few feet away, maybe more. Could the artifact be hidden in a chamber that's been walled off?" Nova turned to me, eyes gleaming. "Ethan, are you feeling all right?" I swallowed against the dryness in my throat. "Yeah, I managed, though I was slightly dizzy. I feel like I've had 10 shots of espresso. My whole body is buzzing." She placed a gentle hand on my shoulder. "That's the energy. It's responding to you. We must be cautious. This artifact is powerful. Mishandled, it could cause catastrophic harm. But harnessed correctly, it could save our home world from a dire fate." Celeste beckoned us over. "Look here. The device indicates that beyond this wall is an access point. Perhaps it's an old door. We'd need to break through or find a hidden latch." She glanced around, her expression worried. "But that would draw attention, wouldn't it?" Yeah, I agreed. You can't exactly bust down a wall in the middle of a working cafe without raising questions. Nova exhaled slowly. We'll have to plan carefully. Maybe after hours. Or we could craft a believable reason for renovations. Before we could say more, the squeak of the basement door sent our hearts leaping. I hastily stood upright, motioning for the twins to hide the device. Gloria's voice floated down from above, calling, "Ethan? You down there, dear?" I cleared my throat. "Yes, just checking those extra beans, Gloria. I'll be right up." I waved frantically at Nova and Celeste, who tucked away their device and scurried behind a tall shelf. Then I stepped out where Gloria could see me. She peered around suspiciously, hands on her hips. "What on earth are you doing in the dark?" And I thought I heard someone talking. I forced a casual laugh. "Oh, I was just on the phone," I lied, tapping my pocket as though referencing my cell. "Wanted some privacy. Sorry if I worried you." She narrowed her eyes slightly, but the mild annoyance faded. "Well, try not to spend too long down here, or the customers will have no one to handle their orders." "Yes, ma'am," I said, gripping the banister. "I'll be up in just a moment." She nodded, then headed back upstairs. Only when I heard the door click shut did I let out the breath I'd been holding. The twins emerged from behind the shelf, eyes wide. "That was close," Celeste murmured, slipping the humming device back into the backpack. "We should go before we rouse more suspicion." "Right," Nova said, then fixed me with a level stare. "Will you meet us tonight? We can return here after closing, see if we can access the artifact. But we'll need your help." My pulse fluttered, a mix of nerves and exhilaration. "Yeah, I'll do it. We'll figure something out. Just promise me you won't vanish into thin air without warning." Nova's lips curved into a grateful smile. "We promise." That evening, after the last customer had left and Gloria had gone home, I remained behind to lock up. My heart drummed a steady beat of anticipation as I waited for Nova and Celeste, who slipped in through the side entrance with silent grace. The plan was simple. Investigate the wall, see if there truly was an access point, and do so as covertly as possible. Down in the basement, the flickering light overhead cast elongated shadows. The sisters wasted no time in activating their scanner again. The beam projected onto the same spot on the wall, faint lines shimmering faintly. "Look," Celeste whispered, running her fingertips across the concrete. "There's some kind of seam here." I joined her, squinting in the dim light. "I don't see anything," I admitted. "But if you say so." Suddenly, my hand brushed the cold concrete, and I felt a subtle pulse against my palm, as though the wall itself recognized me. Startled, I yanked my hand away, only to see the device's glow intensify. Nova nodded, encouraging me to touch it again. As I laid my hand flat against the wall, an unexpected warmth spread from my palm, a tingling sensation traveling up my arm. The lines that the beam had revealed grew brighter, coalescing into a single rectangular outline that marked what appeared to be a hidden door. No hinges, no handles, just an invisible boundary. Celeste's eyes shone. "You really are connected to this thing. Try pushing gently." I did, and to my amazement, the section of wall gave way with a groan, sliding inward by mere inches, sending a cloud of dust swirling. My heart hammered. A stale breeze wafted from the darkness beyond. Nova and Celeste exchanged triumphant glances. Step by cautious step, we pressed the hidden door further open, revealing a narrow passage of stone walls that must have been decades, if not centuries, old. The air reeked of damp earth. My flashlight cut through the dark, revealing a low tunnel that stretched perhaps 30 feet before ending at another wall. We moved inside, the twins behind me. Every step kicked up motes of dust that shimmered in the glow of my flashlight. The device in Celeste's hand gave a steady hum, growing more insistent as we neared the end of the passage. Finally, we arrived at another door or barrier, this one made of metal, badly corroded. A single symbol was carved into its surface, a spiral with a small crescent moon shape in the center. My chest tightened at the sight, though I couldn't say why. Something about it felt hauntingly familiar, like a half-forgotten lullaby. Nova carefully traced the symbol with a fingertip. "It's of our people," she whispered reverently. "This is the sign of the Horizon clan, who were known to explore beyond our world. The artifact we seek was presumably left here by them." "How old is it?" I asked breathlessly, shining the flashlight over the rust-eaten metal. "Hard to say," Celeste replied, pressing her ear to the door as though listening for a heartbeat. It could be centuries old in Earth terms. For us, it might be even older when factoring in cosmic travel. But we have no time to waste. Ethan, try to focus on the symbol. Sometimes these old locks respond to mental or emotional resonance. I stared at her. You want me to concentrate on it? Nova touched my shoulder. Yes, imagine the symbol in your mind. Visualize yourself connected to it. You might recall that tingling sensation. Perhaps it will respond. Uncertain, I swallowed. All right, here goes. Closing my eyes, I inhaled the musty air, letting my thoughts drift to that swirling symbol. At first, I felt foolish. Then, gradually, the tingling returned, stronger than before. A soft hum began in my ears, growing in pitch until it became a resonant tone echoing through my mind. Without warning, I felt a jolt of energy surge through my hand, and I stumbled backward. The old metal door emitted a shriek, then began to slide open, grinding against stone. The twins gasped. My flashlight revealed a small chamber beyond, shrouded in dust and darkness. We crept inside, hearts pounding. The room was round, its walls lined with strange markings that glowed faintly in the presence of Celeste's device. At the center stood a raised pedestal upon which rested something that looked like a crystalline orb, about the size of a soccer ball. It pulsed with subdued light, swirling shades of purple and teal. Is that it? I whispered, a quiver in my voice. Nova nodded slowly, eyes fixed on the orb. Yes, that must be the artifact. We call it the Aeon Sphere. It holds immense energy. It can shape matter, mend ecosystems, even power an entire planet if used correctly. But it can also be dangerous in the wrong hands. Careful not to disturb anything, Celeste stepped closer. As she did, a soft chime emanated from the orb, as though greeting her. Nova followed, placing her hand on Celeste's shoulder for balance. It's been waiting, Nova said, her voice trembling with awe. Perhaps it's been dormant all these years, hoping someone with the right resonance would free it. I felt drawn to it as well, a magnetism I couldn't resist. Moving beside them, I stared into the swirling depths of the orb, pulses of light dancing as though it were alive. My heart felt strangely full, of wonder, of reverence. Now what? I asked, voice nearly lost in the hush of the chamber. We'll have to extract it carefully, Celeste explained, taking a slim metallic rod from her backpack. We have a containment field that should stabilize it. Once we have it, we must leave before others become aware of our discovery. This energy is too potent to remain unguarded. I opened my mouth to question who else might be after it, but the words never formed. Because in that instant, a thunderous crash echoed from the passage behind us. Dust billowed, and we whirled around in alarm. A harsh, guttural voice rang out. Stop right there. My flashlight beam caught a group of figures stepping into the round chamber. They were tall, clad in black attire reminiscent of paramilitary gear, faces obscured by helmets or masks. One, presumably the leader, pointed a strange weapon at us. A weapon that glowed with the same iridescent patterns as Celeste's device, though far more menacing. Nova and Celeste tensed, exchanging quick, alarmed glances. How did they find us so quickly? Celeste hissed. We've been so careful. The leader snarled in that strange accent. You thought you could hide the Aeon Sphere from the Vanguard? Pathetic. Hand it over, or be annihilated. Tremors of fear rippled through me. I'd thought the biggest challenge would be sneaking around Gloria, or carefully chipping through a hidden wall. Now, we faced a group of hostile, possibly alien intruders with advanced weaponry. My heart pounded, and I fought the urge to bolt. Nova took a resolute step forward, placing herself between the intruders and the orb. It doesn't belong to you, she said, her voice steady despite her trembling fists. You've no claim here. Your clan squandered its chance, the leader retorted, weapon aimed with deadly precision. Move aside, or you will die along with your precious human friend. Celeste's eyes flickered with panic. She clutched the containment rod. Ethan, she whispered, get behind us. I, however, felt an unexpected rush of adrenaline. My entire body buzzed with the same energy that had opened the door. Something deep within me refused to stand idle while these aggressors threatened us. Before I realized what I was doing, I stepped forward, raising my hands as though they might shield the twins. The leader barked a laugh. Foolish human, he spat, then squeezed the trigger of his weapon. A searing blast of iridescent light erupted, scorching the air. I braced for impact, certain it would obliterate me. But something inexplicable happened. The energy collided with a shimmering barrier that formed mere inches from my hands, crackling with brilliant sparks. Nova and Celeste gasped. The intruders let out shocked shouts. For my part, I stared, stunned beyond words. The blast had been deflected. My arms shook, faint trails of luminescent energy coursing around my fingers like living ribbons. How is that possible? The leader roared, taking a step back. Nova, recovering first, dashed toward the Aeon sphere, raising the containment rod. In a fluid motion, she swept it over the orb, enveloping it in a protective field that glowed like a translucent bubble. The orb shrank slightly as though folding into itself. Then Nova tucked it under her arm, glancing at Celeste. We need to go now. Celeste nodded, turned her gaze on me. Keep that shield up, Ethan, she cried, taking my hand. Focus on the energy you feel inside you. Her words tore me from my stupor. I desperately tried to will the shimmering barrier into existence again, and sure enough, faint sparks crackled around my palms. Another blast from the intruders struck, but it ricocheted off the ephemeral shield, scorching the stone walls instead. We can't hold them off forever, Nova shouted, darting toward the passage. Ethan, can you move with the shield? I'll try. I stammered, adrenaline fueling each breath. Step by cautious step, we retreated toward the corridor, the intruders leveling more blasts at us. My arms grew numb from the strain of maintaining this unseen force. Yet something deeper than muscle memory sustained me, a wellspring of power I never knew I possessed. One of the intruders lunged forward, brandishing a blade of glowing metal. Before I could muster another shield, Celeste countered with a swift motion of her hand, launching a concentrated pulse of light from her device. The intruder was knocked back, slamming into the wall with a groan. We raced back through the tunnel, hearts pounding, dust swirling in the flickering beams of light. The intruders were hot on our heels, their angry shouts echoing in the confined space. At last, we burst into the basement, where the single light bulb buzzed overhead. Nova glanced around wildly. We can't lead them upstairs. Too many innocent people could be harmed. She looked at me, then at Celeste. We have to fight them here. Fight them. My voice cracked with terror. We're outnumbered. Celeste squeezed my shoulder. We have no choice, she whispered. They will keep coming until they seize the Aeon sphere, or until we stop them. We must stand our ground. A chilling hush fell as the intruders emerged from the secret passage. Their leader, face set in a snarl, leveled his weapon. He seemed to notice that the door to the upper cafe was closed. With a sneer, he said, "End of the line, little rebels." Nova gently set the Aeon sphere in a corner, protected by the shimmering containment field. Then she closed her eyes, mustering her own power. Celeste did the same, the swirling patterns on her device intensifying. I swallowed, lifted my trembling arms, and prayed I could summon that shield once more. The basement erupted into chaotic battle. Bolts of iridescent energy streaked through the air, illuminating the dusty gloom like fireworks. Nova and Celeste dodged and weaved, retaliating with blasts from the device or well-timed telekinetic pushes that sent the intruders stumbling. I crouched near the Aeon sphere, focusing on shielding the twins whenever an enemy took aim at them. My arms burned with exertion, yet the more I concentrated, the more natural it felt, as though this strange power had simply been dormant. Despite our best efforts, the intruders were skilled. One managed to evade Celeste's attack, slipping behind a shelf to flank us. Another nearly reached the Aeon sphere before I blocked him with a desperate lunge of my shield. Sparks exploded across the basement. The air became thick with the metallic scent of alien weaponry discharging, mingled with the musty scent of old coffee beans. Suddenly, the intruder leader let loose a concentrated blast of energy that shattered my shield with a thunderous crack. The force hurled me backward, crashing into a stack of boxes. Pain lanced through my ribs, and for a moment, my vision blurred. "Ethan!" Celeste cried, rushing to my side. She helped me to my feet, her face etched with worry. But the intruders seized the advantage, moving in to corner Nova, who still held the Aeon sphere's containment field. Panting, I summoned the last of my strength, forming a shaky barrier. It wasn't enough to stop the leader's next attack, and Nova reeled under the impact, the containment rod clattering to the ground. The orb pulsed dangerously, as though sensing the conflict. At that critical moment, a new voice echoed from the top of the basement stairs. "Police, what's going on down there?" A bright flashlight beam cut through the gloom. One of the intruders, startled, whirled around and fired, sending a scorching bolt that struck the overhead light. Sparks rained down, and the basement went dark aside from the swirling glows of alien technology. In that instant of confusion, Nova scooped up the orb in its containment field. Celeste grabbed my arm, and we dashed behind the nearest shelf. The intruders, unwilling to risk public attention, began to retreat into the hidden passage. The leader cast a baleful glare our way, voice dripping with menace. "We will not be denied," he snarled, then disappeared into the darkness of the tunnel. The policeman's hesitant steps clanked on the stairs. His beam traced across the basement's disarray. "Hello? Is everything all right?" Nova, Celeste, and I exchanged frantic looks. We had no time to explain the unexplainable. As gently as possible, we set the collapsed shelving upright, stashed the Aeon sphere behind an old coffee bean sack, and tried to collect ourselves. When the policeman's light finally found us, we stood trembling, dust-coated, battered, but trying to appear somewhat normal. "Ethan," the officer said, shining the light on my face. "Is that you? What the hell happened down here?" I heard loud crashes, thought maybe the water heater exploded. I coughed, forcing a sheepish grin. Sorry, Officer Barnes. We had a bit of an accident with the shelves." My mind raced for a plausible cover story. I was showing these to, my friends around, and the shelf collapsed. "We're all okay. Just a huge mess." He frowned, shining the light around the basement. The scorched marks on the walls, the lingering tang of ozone. There was no easy explanation for that. But he couldn't pinpoint anything specific, so he sighed. "You sure nobody's hurt? Need me to call an ambulance?" "We're fine," Nova said, stepping forward with an apologetic smile. "We promised to clean everything up. Sorry for the commotion." Officer Barnes eyed her suspiciously, then me. I could almost see the gears turning in his head. But with no obvious culprit or immediate threat, he merely nodded and said, "All right, I suppose. But keep it down, or we'll have to file a report. Places aren't supposed to be open this late, Ethan. You know the rules." "Right, yes?" I said quickly, bowing my head in relief. "We'll wrap up soon." With one last suspicious glance, the officer headed back upstairs. Only when the door clicked shut did we collectively exhale. "Let's go," Celeste whispered. "We can't stay here. They'll be back, or someone else will come." Nova clutched the orb to her chest. "Agreed. But we need a safe place to examine the artifact. If we can harness its power properly, we might stand a chance against them." I nodded, ignoring the pain in my ribs. My apartment isn't exactly a fortress, but it's off the main road, not easily found. We could hide there for the night. The twins exchanged uncertain looks. Then Celeste said, "We don't have many options. Let's do it." I moved to retrieve the Aeon sphere, half expecting a shock, but the containment field remained stable. It felt warm, pulsing with quiet energy that resonated through my very bones. A voice in the back of my mind whispered that this was only the beginning, that cosmic forces far larger than Trenton Falls had arrived to claim what lay beneath our feet. At my cramped apartment, I did my best to tidy up quickly, shoving laundry into a closet, stacking stray books into a corner. Nova and Celeste slipped in, scanning the surroundings with keen interest. Their posture was tense, shoulders rigid with the stress of the night's ambush. We settled the Aeon sphere on my coffee table, still encased in the containment field. Faint light rippled across its surface, illuminating the dim room in hues of amethyst and teal. I noticed, not for the first time, how the twins seemed drawn to it, as though a gravitational pull existed between them and the artifact. Nova sighed, dropping onto the edge of my sofa. "We need to figure out our next move. If the Vanguard is here, it means they've been tracking the Aeon sphere for some time. They must have a ship in orbit or hidden somewhere nearby." Celeste nodded grimly. "They won't stop, not until they seize it. Their leader, the Los, is ruthless. He believes might makes right. If he gets hold of the sphere, he'll use it to subjugate not only our home, but any world he deems ripe for conquest." The weight of her words pressed on my chest. "So this isn't just about you or me," I said softly. It's about stopping them from threatening entire planets. How do we do that? Nova ran a hand through her midnight hair, wincing as she felt a bruise on her temple. Normally, we'd signal our own people for assistance. But we came here under the radar, and the Vanguard likely jammed our communications. Our best shot is to unlock the sphere's power ourselves, then use it to drive them away. But the sphere is extremely dangerous, Celeste cautioned. We must handle it with utmost care, especially since your resonance is unusual, Ethan. You can manipulate certain aspects of its energy, but that also puts you at risk. I stared at the glowing orb, my mind spinning with questions. What exactly am I resonating with? How is that even possible? Celeste pursed her lips. We're not entirely certain. It's possible that your lineage has an interstellar component, that maybe a distant ancestor encountered an off-world traveler. Or it could be that you were simply exposed to the orb's energy at a formative age, binding you to it in some latent capacity. Whatever the reason, your presence strengthens its responses. Nova gestured for me to sit. Either way, Ethan, the truth is clear. We need your help to activate the sphere safely. If you're willing, we can teach you what we know. It may take time. A swirl of conflicting emotions welled up within me. Fear, excitement, pride, uncertainty. If it means protecting you, and us, from the Los, I'll do it. I said finally, surprising even myself with the firmness of my words. A faint smile touched Celeste's lips. Thank you. We spent the next few hours discussing the sphere's history, how it had been created by an advanced civilization that valued unity and renewal. It harnessed cosmic energies, capable of terraforming worlds or fueling starships. The Vanguard, twisted by ambition, had once tried to claim it but failed. Now, centuries later, it had surfaced on Earth, and the conflict was reigniting. Celeste also explained the basics of focusing energy, meditative techniques, controlled breathing, and mental visualization. She guided me through a few exercises, urging me to sense the faint hum of the Aeon sphere, to align my breathing with its pulse. Despite my fatigue, I felt an almost electric thrill coursing through me. Meanwhile, Nova worked on adjusting the containment rod, reinforcing the barrier to ensure the orb wouldn't radiate signals that might attract the Vanguard again. Outside, the night deepened, and the hum of passing cars dwindled into silence. By the time the faint glow of dawn crept through my curtains, we were all exhausted. Nova nodded off on the sofa. Celeste dozed slumped against the wall. I found a blanket to cover them, then collapsed into my armchair. My eyelids felt like lead, but my mind buzzed. Somewhere out there, hidden in the sky or the shadows, enemies lurked. Yet here in my humble living room, an otherworldly relic glowed softly, linking me to secrets beyond my wildest dreams. I barely noticed the moment I drifted into sleep, lulled by the gentle, rhythmic pulsations of the Aeon sphere, as though it were singing a lullaby that only my soul could hear. The following days unfolded like a dream, or perhaps a nightmare, as we scrambled to stay 2 steps ahead of the Vanguard while unraveling the orb's secrets. Nova and Celeste rarely left my apartment, fearing pursuit. I risked going to the cafe for short shifts, hoping to avoid suspicion, though my mind was constantly elsewhere. Word spread that something odd had happened at the cafe basement. Officer Barnes's curiosity was piqued, and Gloria was perplexed by the strange marks and damaged shelves. I concocted half-truths about a short circuit or a minor electrical mishap, insisting it was nothing major. In a town like Trenton Falls, rumors swirled easily, but conclusive evidence was lacking. During the quiet hours after work, I returned home to find Celeste studying the orb, her features lit with an ethereal glow. She guided me through more exercises, teaching me how to shield, to channel small bursts of energy that might be used defensively. At first, I fumbled, nearly singeing my carpets with wild arcs of crackling force. But gradually, I learned to tame the power, to funnel it into purposeful shapes. Nova, for her part, examined Earth's communication networks, hoping to find a way to contact her people without alerting the Los. She also studied the local geography, suspecting that the orchard where the meteor supposedly landed might be home to a hidden landing site for the Vanguard's craft. The tension in our small group was thick, but so was the growing sense of camaraderie. Strange as it was, we found moments of odd normalcy. Eating takeout pizza together, discussing Earth's television shows, or even laughing as we watched old comedies on my outdated TV. One evening, Celeste brushed her hair in my bathroom, wearing a perplexed expression as she discovered the wide array of Earth toiletries. On another, Nova insisted on helping me brew a pot of coffee, though she nearly flooded the kitchen sink. We were haphazard roommates in an impossible situation. Despite the chaotic circumstances, I couldn't deny a warmth blossoming in my chest whenever Nova or Celeste smiled at me. The awkward memory of them catching me naked in the cafe bathroom had faded into something humorous, almost endearing, a reminder of how unpredictable fate could be. More than once, I felt my cheeks heat whenever our eyes met, especially Nova's intense silver gaze. But romance felt like a distant luxury in the face of cosmic threats. Then, one night, while the twins and I huddled around my small dining table, reviewing maps of the orchard, the Aeon sphere began to pulse erratically. Nova rushed to check it. The orb's swirling colors grew sharp and frenetic, as though it sensed something approaching. My heart leapt into my throat. Celeste grabbed the scanner. "We've picked up a surge of energy signatures to the west, near the orchard," she said urgently. "It has to be the Vanguard. They're up to something." Nova's gaze snapped to me. "We can't wait. If they're opening a gateway or calling reinforcements, we need to stop them. The orchard's only a few miles from here. Let's go." An icy knot of fear twisted in my gut. And do what exactly? Confront them on their turf? Celeste set a reassuring hand on my arm. "We won't fight them alone, but maybe we can sabotage their plans, or at least gather intel. If they're summoning a ship, we can't let it land unchallenged. We must do something." I nodded, swallowing the lump in my throat. "All right, let me grab my jacket. But please, let's be careful." We set out under the cover of darkness, driving my old sedan along the winding roads that led to the orchard. The night sky was clear, stars shimmering overhead in silent testimony to the vast cosmos. I couldn't help but wonder if, among those distant points of light, lay the twins' home world, waiting for salvation. The orchard was expansive, rows of apple trees stretching across gentle hills. At night, it was eerily quiet, the moon's soft glow painting the leaves in silver. We parked at the edge, then continued on foot, guided by the faint beep of Celeste's scanner. After several tense minutes of navigating through rows of trees, we heard the low hum of machinery. Creeping closer, we spied a clearing where half a dozen dark-clothed figures toiled, assembling some sort of device that emitted pulses of light into the sky. At the center stood their leader, the Los, still wearing that sneer of arrogance. My heart pounded at the sight of him. Nova crouched beside me, whispering, "That's a teleporter beacon. They're trying to open a stable portal. If it succeeds, more of the Vanguard's forces can arrive." "How do we stop it?" I asked, adrenaline threading my words. Celeste clenched her fists around the scanner. "We sabotage the device. See that cylindrical component on the side? If we remove or destroy it, the portal will collapse. But they won't let us do it easily." Nova glanced at me. "Do you think you can use your shield to distract them while we sneak around? We have the Aeon sphere in the containment device, but if we rely on its power too heavily, it might be detected immediately." I nodded, heart hammering in my chest. "I'll do what I can." We devised a plan in hushed tones. I would approach from the right, conjure my shield, and draw their fire. Meanwhile, Nova and Celeste would circle around to disable the beacon. Simple, but risky. Taking a steadying breath, I slid through the shadows until I was about 50 yards from the clearing. My fingers tingled with the familiar energy, a raw, potent power that felt both terrifying and exhilarating. Summoning all the courage I could muster, I stepped out into the open. "Hey!" I shouted, my voice echoing among the trees. "Looking for something?" At once, the Los and his henchmen snapped their attention to me. Shouts rang out in that guttural alien tongue. Weapons were raised, and I quickly raised my arms, forming the shimmering shield of energy. Bolts of searing light crashed into it, crackling angrily as they were deflected. My teeth clenched as I fought to maintain the barrier. The Los stomped forward, rage twisting his features. "That meddlesome human again? You cannot stand against us alone." Despite my fear, a spark of defiance flared. "I'm not alone," I spat, though my arms shook under the onslaught. The orchard was bathed in flashes of violent light, the trees quivering in the concussive blasts. In that moment, Celeste and Nova slipped around the perimeter, using the darkness as cover. My peripheral vision caught glimpses of them darting behind trees, inching closer to the beacon. Thalas's men advanced, tightening a ring around me, their blasts pounding relentlessly. My shield flickered, threatening to collapse. Gritting my teeth, I dug deeper into that well of power. The Aeon sphere had awakened something in me, something primal, connected to the cosmos. Drawing upon it, I managed to hold the shield longer than I'd thought possible, though each impact left my muscles trembling. Suddenly, a brilliant burst of light erupted from the beacon. I risked a glance toward it, and saw Celeste ripping out the cylindrical component and tossing it to the ground. Nova blasted it with a pulse of energy from her device, causing it to spark and fizzle. The entire beacon shuddered. Then the swirling columns of light overhead began to collapse in on themselves. No, the Los roared, his fury like a living thing. Abandoning his assault on me, he whirled toward the twins. A savage blast tore through the air, aimed straight for Celeste. My heart lurched. Without hesitation, I sprinted forward, dropping my shield to channel that energy into a single, powerful push. I had only moments, but somehow I reached her side, thrusting my arms out as the lethal bolt streaked toward us. A shimmering wall appeared, deflecting the attack. The force of the impact drove me to my knees, but Celeste was spared. She staggered, looking down at me with relief and concern. Ethan, before either of us could speak, the Los unleashed another furious blast. This time, there was no time to conjure a shield. It struck the ground near us, hurling us backward. Pain exploded in my shoulder as I collided with an apple tree, stars dancing in my vision. Groaning, I raised my head. The Los loomed over us, weapon crackling with energy, hatred etched into his face. Nova tried to tackle him from the side, but a swift kick sent her reeling. He leveled the weapon at me. You have meddled for the last time, human. A wave of helplessness and fear rippled through me. My shield flickered, but I was too disoriented to maintain it. The Los sneered, about to strike a final blow. Then, from somewhere to my left, a swirling volley of shimmering light tore through the air, striking Thalas's weapon and knocking it aside. He staggered, cursing. I turned to see Celeste holding the Aeon sphere itself. Out of its containment field, its swirling energies pulsing. She had used it to fire some sort of concentrated beam. "Get away from him," she cried, her voice trembling with righteous fury. The Los rounded on her, but the orb pulsed again, sending a shockwave that threw him off his feet. Nova scrambled over to me, helping me stand. "Celeste," she called, "be careful." Celeste's eyes glowed with a fierce light, her hair rippling in an unseen wind. The Aeon sphere hovered just above her palms, arcs of luminescent energy radiating outward. The Los struggled to rise, but each time he did, she unleashed another pulse that drove him back, sizzling arcs dancing across his armor. A hush fell over the orchard. The other vanguard soldiers, seeing their leader pinned down by the orb's power, hesitated, fear mingling with confusion. At last, the Los snarled something in their guttural tongue, and they began to retreat, dragging the damaged beacon with them. The orchard fell silent except for the crackle of dissipating energy. We rushed to Celeste's side. Her face was pale, her breaths ragged. "I had no choice," she said, voice quivering. "He would have killed you all. I tapped the sphere, but it's dangerous. We can't keep using it like this without stabilizing it." Nova nodded, slipping an arm around her twin's waist. "You did what you had to, sister. He won't forget this, but at least we stopped them tonight." My legs nearly buckled as adrenaline drained away. I stared at the Aeon sphere, still floating in Celeste's outstretched hands. Its glow had changed, the swirling patterns spinning faster, occasionally sparking with bright flashes. It seemed almost agitated, as though unleashing its power had unsettled it. I placed a hand gently on Celeste's shoulder. "Thank you," I murmured, my voice thick with emotion. "You saved us." She managed a faint smile, and Nova gently guided the orb back into the containment field. "Let's get out of here," Nova whispered, "before they regroup." I nodded, wearily picking my way through the orchard alongside them. Though battered and exhausted, we had achieved a small victory, disrupting the Vanguard's beacon. Yet we couldn't ignore the truth. The conflict was only escalating. Back at my apartment, we tended to our wounds. Nova had bruised ribs, Celeste suffered from extreme exhaustion, and I was nursing a painfully sprained shoulder. But in the midst of this, we also felt the glimmer of hope, having thwarted Thalos's immediate plan. Days rolled by in a blur of recovery and cautious preparation. The twins worked tirelessly to recalibrate the Aeon sphere, analyzing its shifting energies. My role was to assist them however I could, bringing supplies, running interference at the cafe, and continuing the training Celeste insisted I complete. We knew the Los wasn't gone for good, only regrouping. And sure enough, about a week later, a sudden hush fell across town. Strange lights were spotted in the sky near Trenton Falls, fueling gossip of UFOs and conspiracies. The cafe's customers whispered tales, pointing to the orchard and the fiasco that had happened that night. Officer Barnes asked me pointed questions, suspecting I knew more than I let on. Tension thickened like an oncoming storm. One evening, Nova discovered an unusual transmission piggybacking on Earth satellite networks. The Vanguard had managed to beam a distress signal, summoning reinforcements. Our window of opportunity was closing. If a full Vanguard armada arrived, Earth, and possibly the twins' home world, would be doomed. Celeste and Nova huddled with me around the orb, explaining their plan in hushed tones. If we can fully awaken the Aeon sphere, Nova said, it can generate a dimensional rift, allowing us to reach our home star system. There, we could rally our people, or at least relocate the sphere beyond Thalos's grasp. Once it's safe, we can return to negotiate with Earth's authorities without the threat of invasion looming. I glanced between them, heart pounding. You mean we'd travel across the galaxy with it? That's exactly what we propose, Celeste confirmed, her silver eyes locked on mine. But we can't do it alone. Your resonance is key. The sphere won't open such a portal unless it's guided by someone it trusts. A swirl of anxiety and excitement washed over me. I struggled to grasp the enormity of leaving Earth, even if only temporarily. But I also knew we had few options. If the Vanguard arrived in full force, countless lives would be at risk. My mind flashed with images of the orchard skirmish, the crackling blasts, the terror. I couldn't let that happen. I'll do it, I whispered, voice wavering. If it means protecting both worlds, I'm in. Relief shone in their eyes. Nova clasped my hand. Thank you, Ethan. We'll stand beside you. And so, in the final hours before dawn, we enacted the plan. Gathering at the cafe's basement, where the Aeon sphere had first been found, we prepared for a cosmic leap of faith. Nova and Celeste believed that the point of discovery was anchored to the artifact's energy. By using the basement's hidden chamber as a conduit, we might open a stable portal. We descended the stairs under flickering fluorescent lights. The cafe was locked tight, silent as a tomb. Once inside the hidden chamber, Nova set the Aeon sphere on the pedestal where we'd first encountered it. Celeste checked the device that monitored its energy flow, nodding grimly at the readings. I stood before the orb, hands trembling at my sides. Nova placed a gentle hand on my shoulder. Concentrate, she instructed. Remember your training. Breathe. Focus. Let the sphere sense your intent. Celeste knelt at the pedestal, adjusting small controls on the containment rod. We'll feed it just enough energy to open a gateway. Hold steady, Ethan. If you lose concentration, the portal could collapse. Nodding, I closed my eyes and reached into that reservoir of power deep within me. The Aeon sphere's familiar hum answered, growing louder in my mind. I pictured the swirling cosmos, star-laden skies, galaxies spinning like glittering wheels of light. My breathing became slow, rhythmic, matched to the orb's pulsing. In that moment, I felt weightless, transcendent, as though the barrier between body and soul dissolved. A radiant glow enveloped the chamber. Cracking my eyes open, I saw ribbons of light unfurling from the orb, coalescing into a shimmering vortex in the air. My heart pounded. The portal expanded, swirling with colors I had no name for, revealing glimpses of a star field beyond. Nova gasped, tears shining in her eyes. That's it. Our home star system. It's there. She turned to me, voice trembling with awe. You did it, Ethan. The vortex crackled, forming a stable gateway. But even as triumph surged within me, a chill swept down my spine. Heavy footsteps thundered behind us. We spun to see the Los and several Vanguard soldiers pouring into the chamber, weapons raised. He must have tracked the orb's energy spike. Treacherous fools, he spat, leveling a glowing rifle at Nova. I'll not let you escape with the sphere. Celeste snatched the orb from the pedestal. Go, Ethan, take it. We'll hold him off. Fear clenched my chest. No, I won't abandon you. She pressed the orb into my hands, the swirling energies shifting beneath the translucent barrier. You must, or all is lost. Nova and I will follow as soon as we can. Nova summoned a swirling mass of light around her fingers, her stance resolute. We'll buy you time. Now go. Bolts of sizzling energy tore through the air. My shield instinctively flared, deflecting the first volley. But the Los roared, unleashing a devastating blast that shattered my concentration, forcing me to stumble toward the portal. The swirling gateway loomed behind me, crackling with cosmic potential. In that agonizing moment, I locked eyes with Nova and Celeste. I saw fear, courage, and something like love shining in their silver irises. Then, driven by desperate urgency, I clutched the orb and stepped backward into the vortex. A maelstrom of colors and sensations swallowed me, spinning my every sense. My heart hammered in my throat. The last thing I saw of Earth was the chamber's stone floor dissolving into light. The last thing I heard was the echo of Nova's and Celeste's voices calling my name. I emerged in a dimly lit corridor that vibrated with unfamiliar energy. Gravity felt slightly off, as though the floor tilted under my feet. My lungs struggled to adjust to the air, which had a different taste and density than Earth's. Yet I could breathe. The corridor was fashioned of a sleek, metallic substance, illuminated by pulsing lines of light that snaked along the walls. This must have been the temple or hub on Nova and Celeste's home planet, wherever the orb had been originally designed to dock. My thoughts whirled with confusion and panic. Were Nova and Celeste still on Earth, battling the Los? What if they couldn't follow me through the portal? I cradled the Aeon sphere, searching for some sign of their presence. Then, suddenly, the air rippled beside me. Nova stumbled out of a swirling distortion, carrying Celeste in her arms. They both collapsed to the floor, panting. Relief crashed over me like a tidal wave. I rushed to their side. Celeste stirred, blinking. We did it, she rasped, voice hoarse. Nova nodded weakly. Yes, we made it. The Los tried to stop us, but in the end, the portal pulled us through. Heart hammering, I helped them stand. Thank goodness, I whispered, tears of gratitude pricking my eyes. You're all right. Exhausted, Celeste admitted, leaning on me for support. But alive. We steadied ourselves in the alien corridor, the Aeon sphere glowing softly in my arms. A sense of awe washed over me as I realized I was standing on another world. My wildest dreams of cosmic adventure had become reality. But I also felt a pang of fear. Were we truly safe from the vanguard? Lights along the walls brightened, and we heard echoing footsteps. Moments later, a small group of figures, similar in appearance to Nova and Celeste, arrived. Their clothes were more ceremonial, their hair styled in elaborate braids. One, an older female with a regal bearing, stepped forward. Her silver eyes shone with shock and joy upon seeing Nova and Celeste. You've returned, she breathed, voice trembling. Then her gaze fell upon me, the earthling clutching the Aeon sphere. And you have brought the Aeon sphere. By the stars, how did you manage this? Nova dipped her head respectfully. It's a long story, High Matriarch. We owe our lives to Ethan here. He helped us retrieve it from Earth before the Vanguard could seize it. I offered an awkward bow. It's an honor to be here, I said, feeling out of place yet deeply welcomed by the warmth in the matriarch's eyes. Her expression grew sober. We've sensed the Vanguard stirring. Their presence in this region of space has heightened tensions. Come, we must secure the Aeon sphere and prepare our defenses. Thus began a flurry of activity. The Aeon sphere was taken to a grand chamber, a place of swirling star charts and crystalline architecture that soared overhead like a cathedral to cosmic wonders. Nova and Celeste recounted the events on Earth, detailing Thalos's pursuit and my unexpected ability to wield the orb's power. The matriarch and her council listened intently, exchanging grave looks. You have done well, children, the matriarch said finally, her gaze sweeping across the twins. Your bravery has preserved a relic capable of uniting the worlds in harmony. We must ensure it is used wisely. She then turned to me. Ethan Greenwood of Earth, you have risked your life, stepping beyond your known realm to defend this artifact. Our gratitude is boundless. If you wish, we shall help you return home once the threat has passed. A wave of relief and sadness mingled in me. I do want to go home eventually, I admitted, but not if it means leaving you to face the vanguard alone. They've threatened my world once, and they'll do it again if left unchecked. I want to help. Nova's hand found mine, her warm fingers squeezing gently. Celeste smiled softly, resting her head on her sister's shoulder. They understood that in forging this alliance, none of us could turn our backs on each other's worlds. The matriarch inclined her head gravely. Then we shall stand united. First, we will protect the Aeon sphere, ensuring it cannot be seized. Then, we shall open diplomatic channels to Earth, for your people deserve to know the truth. But we will do so carefully, to avoid inciting panic. Thus began a grand new chapter, one that spanned 2 planets, a tale of hidden relics, cosmic gateways, and the fragile but enduring bonds between species. There were still battles to be fought, pockets of vanguard resistance, jealous warlords who coveted the orb's might, and the intricate challenges of unveiling alien life to Earth's governments and citizens. But through it all, I felt a sense of purpose I had never known before. I trained with Nova and Celeste to master the Aeon sphere's potential, tapping into cosmic energies that hummed within me. Over time, we forged alliances with other benevolent species scattered across the stars, building a coalition that kept the vanguard at bay. On Earth, small delegations were brought carefully into the fold, ensuring that humanity could prepare for a broader cosmic community. And in quieter moments, when the swirl of diplomacy and defense receded, I found myself sharing small, tender instances with the twins. We reminisced about the night they caught me naked in the cafe bathroom, laughing at the embarrassment that had brought us together. We marveled at the improbable bond we now shared, shaped by otherworldly relics and interstellar conflict. In time, a joyous occasion arrived, the official signing of a treaty between the matriarch's people and representatives from Earth. It was held on a neutral moon orbiting their home planet, its surface gleaming in soft starlight. I stood by Nova and Celeste's side, my heart swelling with pride. Around us, diplomats and leaders from both worlds shook hands, forging a partnership that promised technological and cultural exchange, a bold step toward unity. When the final signature was inked, thunderous applause echoed across the lunar ceremony hall. Nova and Celeste turned to me, eyes shining with tears of happiness. We embraced, the 3 of us united in gratitude and love. Yes, love, that delicate, unspoken thread that had woven itself through the dangers and wonders we'd faced. Far away, in a quiet corner of the cosmos, Trenton Falls remained the sleepy town I'd left behind. Yet it would never be quite the same, nor would I, or the twin sisters who had changed my life forever. The Aeon sphere's presence now bridged worlds, a symbol of hope rather than fear. Its cosmic light guided us forward. And so, from that humble cafe basement to the endless expanse of the stars, a grand adventure rose, proof that even the most ordinary among us can be called to do the extraordinary. In the end, we found not just an ancient artifact, but a path to forge brighter futures for 2 planets that once stood alone. We returned to Earth as ambassadors of peace, Nova and Celeste at my side, the Aeon sphere safe in the matriarch's custody, waiting for the moment it might be needed again. And beneath the glow of the same moon that lit Trenton Falls at night, we stood together on the threshold of a new era, hearts full of wonder, friendship, and the promise that, sometimes, the universe sends unexpected visitors, who might catch you at your most vulnerable, and end up changing your life in ways you never dared to dream. Happy endings, after all, aren't just the stuff of fairy tales. Sometimes, they're spun from cosmic threads, woven by fate, and sealed with a single moment of happenstance, like twin aliens accidentally catching you naked in a small-town cafe bathroom. And with that spark, everything, truly everything, can change for the better.